Hello everyone, today I'm looking at the Maono AU PM320S Professional Condenser Studio Microphone Set, and I'll show you what's in the box. I'll explain what a condenser microphone is, and I'll explain briefly how I've connected it. The box is packaged in two layers. At the top we've got some instructions, we've got the fine mesh pop filter, and there's a foam windshield which also acts as a pop filter. The bottom layer contains an adjustable boom arm, some branded cable tie wraps, a desk mount, an XLR cable, the microphone shock mount, and of course the microphone itself. I've measured the boom arm mount at 10mm, and this appears to be a standard size. I've got a desk mount from another company and it fits perfectly. I've also got a weighted desk lamp base and it fits in that as well. So you'll have lots of options if you do need to purchase additional mounts or want to move it around. The cable tie wraps are Velcro, so they're handy to keep the microphone cable close to the adjustable arm, and that means you can reposition them easy. To install the microphone into the shock mount, there are two metal spring clips at the front. Squeeze these together and the shock mount opens slightly. You slide the microphone in and release the spring clips. It's a very secure fit. The microphone is not going anywhere. You can install the foam windshield as you wish, and the same with the pop filter. You can attach the pop filter to the adjustable arm or the microphone mount point and then position it between you and the microphone. You will need one or both of these really to reduce vocal pops. The first thing I noticed about the microphone was its weight. It feels well made and solid. The body is metal, aluminium, and the sound apertures are mirrored on the front and back, so it's got a nice symmetrical look to it. And there's also sound holes, apertures on the top. On the base of the microphone is a metal XLR socket. I'll share a little tip with you that I've done in the past when singers had microphones on stage, and the microphone clamp, or the base in fact, would come loose when they keep moving the microphone around. If you're one of those people who grabs a microphone to move it, you'll find that the shock mount can come loose on the boom arm. So I put a couple of turns of PTFE tape on, and when you tighten the shock mount on, this has a little bit of flex in it, so it creates a stronger bond on the thread. You'll find then if you keep grabbing the microphone and moving it around, it won't come loose anywhere near as easily. The XLR cable is 2 meters long. It has a latching female connector at the microphone end. The other end is a non-latching male connector. It's good to see a solid metal connector at the microphone end. I've seen plastic connectors in the past and it doesn't take much effort to break them. If you do, it effectively makes the microphone useless. It's small attention to detail like this that matters. So, what's the difference between a dynamic microphone and a condenser microphone? A traditional dynamic microphone consists of a diaphragm, which is normally a plastic polyester. It has a voice coil made of copper wire. This is attached to the diaphragm. It's normally just glued in place. And then there's a magnet fixed to the body of the microphone. As the sound waves move the diaphragm backwards and forwards, this causes the voice coil to move backwards and forwards as well. When you move a coil of copper wire over a magnet, this will actually create an induced voltage, and it's this which is sent to the amplifier and produces your sound. Condenser microphones use a thin sheet of metal such as aluminium for the diaphragm. Behind it is a fixed backplate. This is also metal. The diaphragm and backplate carry a small electric charge between 9 and 48 volts. This is because some condenser microphones use battery power. As the diaphragm moves backwards and forwards, there is a change in the output signal. The diaphragm and the backplate form a capacitor. As the diaphragm moves closer or further away from the backplate, it alters the capacitance, and it's this that causes the change of the output signal. So which is better? Why would you use a dynamic and why would you use a condenser microphone? They each have their pros and cons, and In some cases a dynamic microphone is better, and in some cases a condenser microphone. So a dynamic microphone can withstand much higher sound pressure, i.e. loud noises. It's ideal for recording loud instruments such as drums or electric guitars through the amps, or even singers. So you'll often see dynamic microphones used to record the ambience, for example, of a live venue. You'll also see them placed in front of drums or in front of guitar amplifiers to record those, to mic them up. The construction is very simple and robust. It's just a magnet, a copper coil, and a diaphragm. This means it's very cost effective, i.e. cheap. It's also durable. It's able to withstand knocks and bumps very easily. I've seen singers drop these on stage from quite a height, just pick them up and just carry on. There's obviously a loud thud as it hits the floor, but they generally survive. Because of the way they work, the copper voice coil is attached to the diaphragm. There is a small amount of mass to that copper, so you do need a certain amount of sound pressure, i.e. force, to move the diaphragm. This means if you have some signals that are perhaps low or high frequency that aren't very strong, they tend not to be recorded. So the dynamic microphone is good in a very loud environment, but it can suffer if you've got low or high frequencies that aren't very strong, and so there is a cut-off in its response. A condenser microphone, because it's just moving a very lightweight diaphragm and there's a fixed metal plate behind it, and it's producing a very subtle capacitance effect, is very, very sensitive. And in fact, while I'm recording this, I've had to record some of these takes 3 or 4 times, because the microphone is sensitive enough to pick up my heating pump on the central heating. My laptop fan, if it turns on, is also a little bit noisy, and it picks that up. And so you might hear the odd noise. There's also a washing machine going on downstairs, so to try and get a perfectly quiet environment is almost impossible. I think I'll have to kick my daughter out of her room and soundproof that and make it into a studio. So a condenser microphone is very sensitive. So if you to tap the table, walk past it, or knock the boom, you will hear it. The other advantage, though, of its sensitivity, it's an advantage and a curse. Small sound waves over a wide frequency range will generate an output. So what you'll find is a condenser microphone has got a very wide frequency range, much wider than dynamic. And therefore at the top and lower ends of frequencies, even if they're not producing a high pressure wave, you will still record them. So the condenser microphone in plain English is more suited to subtle and intricate sounds, such as a human voice, or for example recording an acoustic instrument. So finally, I'd like to explain this microphone is known as a cardioid microphone. So what is a cardioid? If we take a traditional microphone, it's often sensitive to sounds coming from all directions. It has no front or back really. You hold it in the air and it will pick sounds up from all around. These are called omnidirectional or omni. These microphones can be useful, as I said earlier. You can use them to pick up the ambience of a venue, a pub or a club, or perhaps a park or a field, somewhere like that. You don't need to do much with the microphone. You just plug it in, hold it in the air, and it will pick up sounds from all directions. The next microphone type is often called a figure 8, and this is sensitive to sounds from the front and rear, but not so much from the sides. So if you were to have this in front of you and you were singing, if you moved your head to the left or the right, the sound would attenuate quite quickly. So this provides some direction to the microphone. A cardioid is a combination of the two, really. My diagram here is not 100% accurate. I drew it myself quickly on a little program, but it's a reasonable facsimile. A cardioid is more sensitive to sounds coming from the front. It won't be as sensitive to sounds coming from the side, and it's less sensitive to sounds coming from the rear. So when using this microphone, you need to know which direction is the front and you'll often see people on YouTube or using condenser microphones that they're stationary, the microphone is pointing in a certain direction. There is a level of ability to pick up sounds from the sides, but as I say, they are directional, and that can be a main advantage. You're wanting to pick up a voice that's in front of the microphone. You don't really want to pick up too much that's behind or to the sides. The sensitivity of these microphones though is very high, so you do find, as I say, in my house at the moment, I've got the central heating going, and so you might be able to hear even the pump going on the central heating, or the radiators ticking as they're heating up and cooling down. There's a washing machine going downstairs. You might even hear vehicles driving past, even though I've got double glazing. So they are still sensitive, but they are nowhere near as sensitive from the rear as they are from the front. A quick note on the equipment I've used in this video. I've used the Maono AU PM320S microphone. I've connected it to my Alto ZMX52 mixer. This is providing the phantom power that it requires. This is an analog mixer, so the output is straightforward analog. I'm taking that output and connecting it to an Xlr line link analog to digital USB cable. So in layman's terms, this takes the left and right output from the mixer, takes them down a cable into a USB socket, and that's got a chip inside it which converts the analog signal into CD quality audio. I'm sampling that at 16 bits, 44 kilohertz, that's 44,000 samples a second, which is CD quality. I'm doing that using the Linux audio recorder application. This is very similar to the sound recorder within Windows. You just simply click it and it records. It doesn't do anything to the audio, it doesn't alter it in any way. I then feed it into Audacity, and in Audacity I'm just trimming off things like car horns and the cat meowing, the central heating boiler firing up, the washing machine. In other words, I'm trimming off an awful lot of distracting noises. I've left my mixer and everything else as far as I can at default. So all of the settings on the mixer are midway, which is default. The input into the laptop I'm using, the Xlr line link level is default. The audio recorder settings are default. So I'm trying to leave things as much as I can to default. Because I have got my heating system running in the background, I have used Audacity and I've used the noise reduction program in places to take that out. That actually does reduce the audio levels a little bit, so I've brought them back up when necessary. You might hear a slight change once or twice during the video where that's happened. I've had to alter the audio levels. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it and it's been useful to you. Over the coming weeks, I'm going to do a couple of things with this microphone. I'm going to ask my daughter when she returns from university to sit down with her acoustic guitar, and we'll see how it sounds with a live instrument in front of it. I have also been asked by people what chord system I use when I'm playing chords on my keyboard. I'm a traditional organist, and I learnt using something called the anchor system. It's very hard to find any documentation on it these days. So I'm going to sit down, attach this microphone onto the table beside my Tyros, and it'll give me a nice audio level for when I do the video. I can attach a microphone to the Tyros directly, but it will only take a dynamic microphone. I've already tested it, and you almost need to be singing at quite a high level to get the microphone to work properly, so this one will be much better suited. So as I say, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.